And it was such a big risk and a lot of work as far as the remodel goes. And it was just such a huge task to take on. I just thought it was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But look, we were all surprised, I think, too, when it launched, how busy it was right off the bat.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was pretty cool.
Hey Islanders, and welcome to episode 123 of the Camano Voice. Today I speak with the Espresso Bar Manager of Camano Commons Marketplace. Please welcome Jen Sloan. Hi, I'm Brandon Erickson, and you're listening to the Camano Voice podcast, where I interview folks around Camano Island and beyond. If you want to stay up to date on events, businesses, and even hear a little history of this area, subscribe to this podcast and share with your friends. Thanks for listening. Hey, Islanders, and welcome to another episode of the Camano Voice, where we release a new episode every Tuesday. And Happy New Year. This is going to be the first episode of 2022, and I'm excited to get back into this. It's something I really enjoy doing, and I have missed doing this. So, hey, guys, hope you guys are happy New Yearing. I know for me, I'm doing a lot of goal setting right now and planning out of 2022. So I actually, I'm hoping to maybe do an episode, and I haven't figured out who with yet, but doing an episode with somebody to kind of go over goal setting and planning and stuff for this next year. So I'll probably be releasing that one pretty soon as well. But that is not this episode. This episode, we are actually interviewing Jen Sloan, so our very own Jen Sloan. And at this point, most of you have heard or know that she is actually is moving on after almost 10 years here at the marketplace. So we are super sad to see her go. We wish her the very best moving forward. She seems like she's got a great opportunity coming up here. So, we're really happy for her. Of course, that means that we don't get to keep her here. And, it's part of owning a business and seeing people move on. But in all of that, I wanted to have her on the podcast before she left. So she agreed to it. We did this. So you actually get to learn more about the marketplace than even I got to, from more than my perspective, because she's actually been here longer than I have, which is a weird thought. So anyways, super excited for you guys to hear about this, kind of hear about what the marketplace used to be like compared to what it is now, and kind of her story of how she got into espresso and everything like that. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Jen Sloan. Hey, Islanders, and welcome to another episode of the Camano Voice. Today I'm here with the Camano Commons Marketplace Espresso Bar Manager. Welcome to the podcast, Jen Sloan.
Thank you.
Yeah. So before we get started, tell us a little bit about Jen.
Okay. I grew up, I didn't grow up. I was born in Connecticut, in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And I have one sister. And we moved here, though, when I was about 4.5.
Okay.
To the Everett, Snohomish area. My grandparents had moved here about a year before I was born, I believe. My grandpa was a pilot for Pan Am.
Okay.
So he fell in love with the Northwest and moved out here. And then my mom found out that she was going to have, me. And then she was upset that her parents moved and kind of left her back there. Because she wanted her mom's help and all that, So we followed a couple years later.
Okay.
When I was about 4. So
nice.
We moved out, settled there. My grandparents were in the Burlington, and they've lived there until they passed away. So a long time. But then I grew up in the Snohomish and South Everett area.
Okay. Nice. So where did you go to school then?
Snohomish High School.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. How did you like growing up in that area?
I liked it. I wasn't down in the valley of Snohomish. I was kind of more in the South Everett, Mill Creek area.
Okay.
But I had friends in Snohomish. One of my good friends growing up lived on a dairy farm, a pretty big one. So I got a little bit of both kind of the city kind of the Everett side, and then also got to run around on the farms down there and kind of experience the country side a little bit. So it was good. I had a good childhood and, rode lots of bikes and did all that kind of stuff. So
Nice.
it was a good place.
Yeah. Did you prefer the countryside or the city side more?
I think when I was younger, probably the countryside, just because we could run around and get dirty, and that was a lot of fun. But as I got older and got my driver's license and, discovered boys at other schools in the city, it was I pretty much left the country behind. So
Yeah, the important things in life.
Yes.
Nice. So, so you, when you were going to high school and stuff, were you working throughout high school?
I started when, just right before I got my license, my parents said I needed to get a job if I wanted a license because I needed to pay for my car insurance. That was the stipulation. So my first job was at TCBY in Linwood. My dad drove me there because I didn't have my license quite yet.
Yeah.
So that was pretty short-lived. And then I worked in bagged groceries at Safeway for a while. And then right after that, I believe I got into my first espresso stand coffee job when I was 17.
Okay.
So that's kind of where it all started for me.
Nice. So
Yeah.
where was the coffee stand you were at then?
Well, I got the job right after I graduated. It was on Mukilteo Speedway.
Okay.
Called Mokateo
Okay.
Cafe. And I worked there for about 3 years. And then from there, bounced around to other places.
Okay.
It's kind of a long history of working at espresso stands and all that kind of stuff. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you doing espresso bar management, or did you supervise or whatever at like Mokatios or at other ones?
Yeah, it wasn't at Mokateo, but it was shortly after that. Within after I left there, I did a brief stint at Washington Mutual Bank at the call center.
Oh, yeah?
Which was the worst job I've ever had. It was really scary. I was 20 years old, I think, and people get really angry when they call this call center a lot, so it was pretty intimidating. I wasn't very good at the job at all, so I didn't stay long at all. But then right after that, I worked at I know everybody's familiar with the AM/PM groceries or gas stations down there in Monroe on Highway 2. Right before the fairgrounds, there's that AM/PM there on the left. But
Okay.
AM/PM at that time, I guess that would have been in the early 2000s. They wanted to do an experimental drive-through espresso stand situation, but run by BP.
Okay.
And so I think they might have had just 2 locations. I think maybe one was in Redmond and one was in Monroe, but I was part of kind of helping them do that. And it was actually good coffee. It wasn't the same coffee that they used in the gas stations.
Yeah.
Not that that's not good coffee. It isn't good coffee. But anyways, I worked there and managed that place for about 3 years.
Wow.
There actually was a manager that hired me there. It was pretty new. And then when she left, they made me jump through quite a few hoops to become manager. I had to do a lot of extra training through the BP Corporation.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess.
Was it management training, how to manage a team and things like that?
It was weird. They basically said that they didn't have a manager before. They had never done that, which is silly because a manager had hired me. But I don't think they wanted to I think they were kind of just meh. They didn't really care about it. And then I was well, I need to get paid the same as the manager that just left here. Then they made me do all these extra courses and training down in Federal Way to do all this extra stuff. But I just went through all the hoops, and then I managed that place for several years. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And did that... I don't see many of those around. Did that project kind of die?
It did.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, it pretty much died out. They decided the company did one of those major remodels of the store. So the gas pumps were shut down for a long time because they got all new pumps. And during that time, we lost a lot of business because they shut the actual drive-through down for months.
Yeah.
And at that point, when we went to reopen, it just wasn't the same. So, yeah. So it didn't really work out, but I met some customers down there and also worked with some girls, and there's 2 sisters that came through every day, and they started wanted to start an espresso stand in Mukilteo on the Speedway. So I found myself back out on Mukilteo Speedway helping them actually open up their business.
Okay.
And then also 2 sisters that I worked with also did the same thing.
Okay.
A couple years later in the same drive-through location that the 2 original sisters, because it didn't work out for them. But
Okay.
it's kind of a long thing. But
Wow.
I've just kind of helped some people when I was younger just because they didn't know anything about what it entailed and even where to start or how to make drinks or anything like that. So they just called me in and I helped them get things going. But
Yeah.
but I didn't actually work there.
Okay.
I just was kind of helping them with what products to get and how to order and just all the little details that they had no idea what to do. So
Yeah.
just gave them my expertise and then left.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Nice. So what did they they didn't end up working out, but like what were kind of the things that you like for them to look out for and work through in getting started?
Well, one of the first pair that bought the place that I helped, they had no experience in the business at all. And they were really young too. And I think what they were doing is they were doing like half price coffee and even free coffee for a lot of the local people. It was in an industrial area. So
Okay.
a lot of guys that would come in, and gals too, they would really heavily discount them.
Okay.
But they made friends with them and then they felt bad like adjusting the prices. And
Yeah.
so as time went on, they were not charging anymore. Like they didn't set a deadline of like, we're going to do this for the first 30 days as a welcoming,
Yeah.
type thing. And then at this point, okay, now we're really in business and we got to like change the prices. And they just kind of, it was almost more like a fun thing, I think,
Yeah.
for them. It wasn't really, weren't taking it serious enough. And the person that had backed them financially, I think put an end to it because, they were like, well, you're not really, if you can't, tell the people, if the people really cared about you and wanted to support you, they would pay the full price,
Yeah.
but I think that just kind of failed that way.
Yeah.
That they never really rolled it out properly after that initial opening. So, yeah.
How did you get in contact with the other sisters then when they came in and took over?
Yeah, so weirdly, when the first 2 sisters, when it didn't make it for them and the business went up for sale, I hadn't talked to the sisters that I worked with in Monroe for a while, and then they gave me a call and they said, hey, our grandparents just gave us a loan to buy this espresso stand in Mukilteo, and it ended up being the exact same one that I was already helped the original people with.
Okay.
And I don't know, they didn't have it for very long either, but they did have more experience than the first owners because they had worked with me down in Monroe for some time. So
Okay.
I didn't have as much involvement in the second time around, but
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, that's
so
fun.
I don't know if that's really something to brag about because neither of them really made it anywhere, but at least it was fun to help and lend, my knowledge to
Yeah.
other people. So.
Well, and every time you go through that process of kind of really thinking through, like, okay, what's this going to look like? You get better at that process because then when you're explaining the second time around, you're like, oh, I said this last time, but I think I should have said this, or
Yeah.
kind
Definitely.
of refine your way that you work through that stuff. Very cool. So then after you left there and you stepped in and helped a little bit here and there, but what were you kind of doing after that then?
Mostly just working in other like stands and other locations, just randomly around Snohomish and Everett. I just really liked doing that, and tips were good, and it was something. I was young, and I always had good schedules. I could get off at go in at 4 a.m. and get off at noon, and then have the rest of the day with my friends to go run around. So it worked well for me in my early, late teens, early 20s. I guess I briefly considered opening my own place when I was really young, but it was a combination of being scared to do it because there was so many everywhere. It was really, and location was so important. And at the time, there wasn't really any place that was established business that were selling that was something that I could afford as a 20-year-old. I didn't have any, finances saved up or anything. So it was more about me trying to find a new location, and I was struggling. I even came all the way out here on Camano Island. This was way before I even moved out here. I had never even heard of it, but I
Okay.
just went on a drive with my mom, and I actually went down to the your family owned it at the time. I didn't know.
Yeah.
This had to have been in like the early 2000s or something.
Okay. Yeah.
The Elger Bay drive-through.
Yeah.
I made it that far down on the island before my mom and I were like, this is, because we're from Everett, and I was like,
Yeah.
this is too far. But I did go through the drive-through, and I was asking the gal questions about, is it busy down here, and just kind of trying to feel out the situation and see if there was any other locations around the area. And then we just left the island. I don't think I came back here for like 10 years.
Wow.
But yeah. So yeah, I just kind of, went through, getting information on getting a business license, but I just was really overwhelmed and just young, and I just kind of gave up, and I partly scared too, because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, and
Yeah.
there's an espresso stand on every corner, and I don't want to fail, so I just kept working instead, and yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's something, one of the, like, looking around, I feel like there was definitely a time where I was kind of looking at different business models and different businesses, like, to start. And, I think what was very intimidating about, like, starting a business was when you look around the internet, because you have access to everything, you can look up, like, business that does X, and you'll find, just hundreds of them that do them. And you'll look and you'll see through all these ones that have failed, ones that you're like, oh, they're doing a good job with it. Like, I don't know what I would improve on that, and so I shouldn't enter that market.
Yeah.
But I think there's also a lot of people that end up still making it and doing something with it out, even through that and despite all of that. To me, one that stands out is Brew 352. Is that what it's called?
532?
532, there we go. Yeah,
it's the
that
highway.
That makes more sense. But that one had a rough start. It was it was renamed and sold, but when the new owner came in and took it over, there's a lot of coffee stands just in that line of things that you can do. And so, like, that as a business from a business perspective would be very intimidating for me to take over that and be like, well, there's already Locals, which is kind of the juggernaut of that.
Right.
And you've got Shipwreck and you've got all these other coffee stands. And yet they were like, they made it, and like getting into the stand is kind of like, if you don't know what you're doing, you're like, how do I get there? But they've been doing well and they've been making it work. And
I've noticed. Yeah.
I just think that's really cool that, like, despite kind of all the things stacked against them, they were like, no, we're still going to make a go at this.
They had the courage to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
in hindsight, I mean, I wish I would have given it more of a go, but I think just with my age and then all I could think of was like, well, what if it doesn't work out? How am I going to pay back like this business loan? Because I don't have really any kind of anything to fall back on, so it was just overwhelming. So
oh yeah,
I just gave it up.
Yeah. Very cool. So you were kind of bouncing around to a bunch of different espresso stands and stuff. Then how did you first of all, like, when did you kind of end up like coming back to Camano after 10 years? What kind of drew you back there?
Yeah. So actually, like, the market crashing and like I was married at the time, and I owned our first house. We owned our first home in Marysville.
Okay.
And we at the time I was working, his family had a aerospace machine shop in Arlington, and they had convinced me to I was working at Starbucks for about just like 9 months, and then they convinced me to come work for them. So I worked for them for about 6 years, and I had a house in Marysville, and then we did one of those like adjustable rate mortgages.
Okay.
It was like a 80-20, they were calling them. We were young again, and we were freaked out. They freaked us out that we were never going to be able to afford a house because the prices were going up and we need to get it now. So we bought a house, and then we weren't able to refinance and get that fixed interest rate because the houses the prices crashed, and so we owed way more than what our house was worth.
Oh, okay.
And so we had to short sale the house, and we needed to find somewhere to live quick. And at the time we had 3 pit bulls and a cat, so trying to find even a rental with 1 pit bull, if anybody owns pit bulls, I think maybe it might be a little easier now.
Yeah.
But back in like I guess it'd be like 2010, it was really difficult to find some place that would allow like an aggressive breed dog as
Right.
they're considered. And so since we had 3, we were like, there's no way. So we lucked out and we found a rental here on the island on like 5 acres, and someone let us go there, and we just snatched it up, not really having been to Camano at all, but we just needed someplace quick, so we lucked out. It was up over near Sunset, in West Camano.
Yep.
So we lived there for a few years in that rental, and I just continued to work at that machine shop. So that's how I kind of made it out here. Yeah, it was just a fluke and in desperation, basically. But it was the best move like that I, could have made. I've always felt like I didn't want to live in Washington growing up anymore. I really don't like the rain and the clouds and I've always, when I was younger, I just can't wait to get out or at least go to Eastern Washington where it's sunnier. But then something about moving to Camano really changed things for me totally. I really like it here, and I think that being in that, is it like the rain shadow or
banana
something?
belt?
Yeah. I mean, I noticed it so much just commuting from here to Arlington. It would be rainy and crummy out all day there, and then when I'd come home after work, you would see this little like sun pocket like up ahead, when you're going through Stanwood towards Camano, and it just makes you feel good, and so I just fell in love with it, I guess.
That's great. No, it's definitely, especially if you go north or east at all, because my wife grew up in Cedar Woolley, but like as you go up that way, like it, like per however much you drive up, it starts going up by like annual rainfall by like the inches. It's so weird. So it really makes Camano stand out when you're everywhere else is raining and like you have a little pocket of like,
and
at
it's
least not
so
rain.
Beautiful here. And we learned how to crab, and I just liked going down to the water, and so
nice.
It saved me.
Very cool. From making a mistake and moving somewhere else. Very cool. So now I don't know how many, I think maybe most people that listen to this would know, but like you've actually worked here longer than I've been here, because I was off at college and doing stuff. So how did you end up getting started here?
So like I said, I was working at the machine shop in Arlington, and I was on the way to work one day, and there was an accident down on the bridge getting off the island. And so people that live here know when there's an accident down there, it backs up all the way up the hill. And so I was at a stop, coming down the hill, and someone behind me I just had a small little car, and someone behind me in a big truck wasn't paying attention to that everybody was stopped, and he just full speed ran into the back of me, which I kind of saw it coming, so I left some distance between myself and the car in front of me, thank goodness, but it kind of shot me across to the left over oncoming traffic. Thankfully, there was no traffic coming up the hill at the time because of the accident down below, so it was clear. But it shot me across over to the other ditch on the other side, and it actually flipped his truck, and he landed in the ditch on the other side as he hit me so hard.
Oh my word.
It was really scary, but I was okay, and I got out of my car, and the first car that they let through heading onto the island after the accident down below was your old accountant here, Karen. And so Karen pulled over because she saw me standing outside, and she was so sweet, and she let me sit inside her car, and she talked with me, and I called my then husband. He left work to come get me, but she was really sweet and sat with me and kept me calm, and she talked to me about working here and how she liked working here, and she had a daughter, and So when my husband at the time got to me, she said, okay, well, I'm going to take off and head to work. So a couple weeks later, I wanted to thank her. And so I got her a plant for her desk, and I stopped in next door to the roasting building and asked if she was there. And I don't think she was here at the time, but I left the plant, and I kind of told why I was leaving it. And everybody was really nice, and to me at the office. And when I left there, I thought, gosh, I could work there someday. I was kind of like, I bet I could get a job there, with all my coffee experience. I was like, I think they'd hire me, but I was still working at the other place at the time. So, eventually, I left there, and I kind of gave myself some time to think about what I wanted to do next. And, I wasn't happy doing that, in the shipping and receiving. It was just difficult. There was no like real people interaction. And, so my husband then said, well, we can afford for you to do something that you love to do. So why don't, if you want to go back into coffee, why don't you just go ahead and do that? That's okay. So that was really cool. And so I brought my resume down here and, gave it to, I think, Christy and your dad in the office. And then, got a call pretty quickly after, because they were starting to open the marketplace. Because they had bought it because it was empty for a while.
It had been sitting there.
Yeah, and they needed someone to run the espresso bar that they were putting in there. So, so I got hired, and Christy was my manager, and I remember coming in here, and I met your dad officially, and he was unwrapping metal chairs that we have on our back patio. He was taking the brown paper off the legs, and and he made a joke about that they pay him the big bucks to do that. So I don't know, good energy from everybody here, and that's where it all started.
Very cool. Did when you dropped off your resume and stuff, was Karen there that time? Did you get to see her?
I don't remember. I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't remember when I actually talked to her again after that day. So it was. I just think from the beginning, even just from meeting Karen and then meeting everybody in the office who was so warm, and it just felt like a good place to be, especially from coming somewhere where I wasn't very happy working. So it felt like the right place.
Yeah.
So,
Nice. So then when you got hired on, though, what was kind of like, they didn't, I mean, I guess there had been some espresso stands, and there was a little like, we used to have that like little mini espresso bar in the roasting room.
I've heard about that.
But there was just an espresso machine, and I don't know how correctly everything was being made back then. It was kind of just like, oh, we're going to do this now.
I think Dan was kind of the maybe the most skilled.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think I just kind of took over. I don't know. I mean, we just hired a couple gals, and I just trained them, as I don't think they had espresso experience. And but I don't think really. Your mom worked some days actually.
Okay.
She was on the schedule in espresso for
Really?
some time.
Okay.
I don't think she didn't like it very much. It stressed her out. So as you can imagine, I think she hated it. But she definitely was one of the baristas on the schedule.
That's great.
So
I actually don't think I knew that she made espresso drinks.
Yeah.
I knew she had,
She really, as soon as the busier we got, the more she was like, no.
Oh, that's great. So what was it like in the beginning? Because we didn't have the bakery and stuff like that. It was the espresso bar. There was a lot more retail area. And then Del Fox, did they open with us in the
I think
marketplace?
so.
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah. So what was it like back then?
Yeah, really quiet for the most part. There would be, I floated a lot between the gift shop and the espresso bar, mainly because we could go easily an hour without serving a drink to somebody. It was so quiet, maybe like 20 customers a day or something. It was just super quiet at the beginning. So I learned a lot of the retail and the gift wrapping and the coffee, like beans and all of that side of things. And which was cool because I had been in coffee like pretty much my whole life up to that point, but I didn't know much about coffee itself. I just know how to make drinks and serve customers. So that was kind of cool to learn that and be able to share that with customers as well. But it was definitely quieter back then. I think the gift shop was where the most business was for sure.
Yeah.
And then we would entice people, as we still do with the Jeff Buck coupons on the 2-pound bags of coffee. So that would entice people to come down and see me. And then we'd try to, just build relationships with them and get them to keep coming back. So
yeah. Well, yeah, and especially because we have, there are coffee, like we talked about before, there's coffee stands. So convenience-wise, a lot of people, they're,
right.
You're going to stop at the coffee stands. And so.
Yeah, and go through the drive-thrus.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, over time, I think it just got busier. I mean, obviously, the main factor was the bakery getting put in, which really boosted everything up. So
yeah. So, and you got to be part of that, too, when that was all being thought through and all of that stuff. How was that?
So I kind of like to tell this story because it just shows how little I know in the business world, especially compared to your dad, Jeff. But he actually, as he's talked on here before, his dream about opening up a bakery on Camano.
Mm-hmm.
And I first learned about that when he asked Christy and I to come to a meeting in his office. He wanted to talk with us about, it was when he had just made his decision with, to open up the bakery with Pierre. And so he sat us down and he told us about it. And Christy and I both left the meeting and we were walking, his office was above Brooklyn Road. So we were walking through that alley there and we both looked at each other. I was like, oh man, I don't think so. I don't think it's going to work. We're like, oh, he's nuts, and we're just like, oh, this is okay. I guess we'll just support it. But I was just like, there's no way, that it's going to work out here just because we'd seen how slow it could be.
Yeah.
And it was such a big risk and a lot of work as far as the remodel goes. And it was just such a huge task to take on. I just thought it was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But look, we were all surprised, I think, too, when it launched, how busy it was right off the bat.
Yeah.
So, it was pretty cool.
Yeah. No, I know.
Foot in my mouth.
Well, to be fair, there have been some of those ideas as well.
Yeah.
He talks about some of those as well on some of those podcasts.
Yeah.
Like his
the crab legs.
So, very cool. So then, as that started going and everything, and things kept kind of growing from there, how have you kind of seen... there's obviously been changes in how busy it is, but how have you seen changes elsewhere within the marketplace and things like that?
Well, I for sure, the biggest thing that stands out for me is how many people use that as their meeting place and gathering and hanging out with friends of all ages, young people and senior citizens. And so it's definitely gone from just like a run in and grab my coffee beans and get out, or I need to get a quick gift for somebody, to this is where we're going to meet and we're going to hang out and we're going to visit. I think that's the biggest change, is just completely transformed what the place is to the community. Yeah. So that's the biggest thing that I've noticed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think it's so neat seeing all the different customers and stuff, and it's sad because there's a lot of we have a lot of customers that have been coming to the store since it was really quiet and not many people. Yeah. And a lot of them have passed on, and now we're in the second or third wave now of customers.
Yeah, we've lost some customers that we've known for a long time. It's tough, but thankful that we got to share with them and get to know them. That's pretty neat. Yeah.
So very cool. So we'll definitely get back to the marketplace and things like that. But one of the things when I came on, and I came on as just working some side projects for my dad when I started here. And slowly that evolved into taking over management of the marketplace. But one of the things that we connected on early on was our love of gummy candies. So I was curious, where did that kind of start for you? And what are some of your favorite gummy candies?
I mean, I absolutely love gummy candy. It's probably my favorite, but I just, in general, like, I'm not a big, like, chocolate person, and I feel like that's your options is, like, some kind of, like, gummy candy, fruity candy, or chocolate candy. And so if I'm, like, at a store and I'm going to go for, like, a bag of gummy worms over, like, a Snickers bar all the time, anytime. So, I think, like, I guess I love Starburst a lot and things like that, but I don't know what it is about gummy candy. I love, I can't remember the brand.
The
Albanese or something?
Albanese, yeah.
I get them at TJ Maxx, and it comes in like a big giant Ziploc bag.
Yep.
And I'll just sit there and eat like way too many and then worry about like if that's okay or not to eat that many. But that's my favorite. Those are my favorite ones that I've had so far because there's so many flavors and they're really good and they taste kind of more natural. I think they are maybe they're natural.
Well, they're also like because I remember, so I get picky with gummies now, but with gummies, like I used to just get kind of whatever gummies and stuff, and I learned pretty early on, like I'm not a huge fan of like Haribo gummy bears. I like the hard, like I like softer.
Yeah, they do hurt your jaw because like if I eat gummy bears, like I'm not good. If there's a big bag, I can't. It's hard for me to stop eating them. So I do notice that my jaw will get sore if it's like a tougher gummy.
Yeah. Well, then the other thing is like if you just get like some of the other generic gummy bears, like you eat one gummy bear and you're like, oh, that tastes like a gummy bear, and then you eat the next one and you're like, it's kind of the same thing. Yeah. But like Albany's, like every single gummy bear you eat,
distinct.
You're like, oh, this is definitely pineapple, or this is definitely apple, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But
they should send us some free gummy
bears.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then, have you guys? You also have done a lot of traveling and stuff like that, like to different countries and stuff. When you're there, do you make a point to try and check out other gummy candies?
No, and I never thought about that. But now that you said that, I don't know why I haven't. I should start this now. Oh, I feel like I've been missing out. I actually listened to this podcast. I'm on this Facebook group called, I think it's called Her Adventures now. They just changed the name. It was Girls Who Travel. But it's such a great Facebook group, and it's really empowering to women. And they have a side group, like a little, I don't know what it's called, subgroup that is about food. And they also now started a podcast, and they do a segment on it about snacks from different countries. Okay. And I feel like why I've missed out on so many opportunities to try snacks. I don't know. I like food so much. I don't know why I missed that, but I'll have to start. Yeah. But I should start gummies specifically.
Yeah. Well, there was...
but I'm kind of scared because there's going to be some weird ones. There's going to be like,
for sure.
like shrimp gummies or something.
I was part of a snack box for a while that would every month sends you different snacks from around the world.
Yeah, I think I've heard of that.
So I did that for a while, but then if you go to like H Mart or some of the like Asian grocery stores,
I have gone.
They've got great gummy selection because they're like they do have some really weird kind of exotic flavors. But I feel like I always, when I go to even like Central America, stuff like that, like I'm always checking out like what kind of candies you guys have here and what things do you have. So, but the other kind of hidden spot that if you do a lot of road trips or things like that, gas stations. Every gas station we get gas at, I go in and just check out their candy because almost every time you're looking through their candy section, you're like, yep, that's just normal stuff. And then you'll look down and there'll be some random thing that the person was like, well, let's see if these go. Yeah. And so I always pick up any weird candy gummy things that I see. And I've gotten some really gross ones that I take one bite and I'm like, nope, I tried it. It's garbage. I don't need it. But those are always fun places to stop by too.
I just I went to Hawaii a couple weeks ago, and at the Airbnb they left these gummies, which was perfect, on the table, and they were individually wrapped, but they were pineapples, and they were shaped like pineapples. Yes. And I looked on Amazon, and I found them on there, so I'm going to get some. But they were so good. I had to I think they left me like 5 of them only, and I ate like 3 right off the bat, and then I was like, oh my gosh, like once they're gone. I don't know where these came from, and so it was really hard to ration out. I think they lasted like a day and a half for me because But yeah, I definitely would like to eat those again. They were super good.
Yeah, I think those came in one of the snack boxes one time.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was a Hawaiian one. And
Yeah.
And yeah, they're like individual like wrapped
And they're like
pineapples.
kind of shiny.
Yes.
And they had like the green little
Yep.
leaf top. Yeah.
And the texture of them was just like, I was like, it's perfect.
It was a good texture. It was
Yeah.
kind of bouncy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are great. I'll have to try and find those too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, those. And then the other one that I really enjoy the texture of, they have them at a lot of like the candy shops that you go into, is if you ever see 3D gummies, a lot of times they'll have like, there's like Mario ones that they do, where they'll do different
Oh my gosh,
shapes.
I've never heard of a 3D gummy.
But they're like, you know, like the Mario ones, like literally like you'll get a Yoshi and it's like a full gummy, but it's Yoshi. But they're smallish, but the texture that they have is always like,
oh, I see. Like 3D, like it's got a back. Like most like gummy bears are just like flat on the back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they were. If you ever find those are also really
Cool.
good texture-wise and stuff.
Nice.
Very cool. So
I feel like we're weird now.
yeah,
They're like, okay.
they're like, okay, well,
We can't
you know,
relate, but
this is not coffee. All right. Well, another big reason we wanted to get you on the podcast is we have sad news as well. I know. But and you've been with. I mean, you've been here since the start of the marketplace, but that's been almost 10 years now that you've been here at the company.
couple months shy.
And like, first of all, I just gotta say, like, it has been so great, like, having you here because you've just taken care of the espresso bar, and I don't like even upon buying the company and everything, we haven't had to like worry about the espresso bar because it's just taken care of, and as well as many other things as well. But you actually are moving on soon.
Yeah.
So what does your future kind of look like from here?
Oh gosh, it's kind of scary because this is all I've done. Obviously, I just turned 40 last month, so it's a long time. It's over 20 years of kind of basically doing the same type of work, and obviously I'm really comfortable in it, and it makes me happy. But I just feel like just other changes in my life as well. It's and turning 40,
Yeah.
and I just feel like it's time for me to learn some other things and try some other, some other things in life. And
Yeah.
so as far as the future, I'm going to be working at a credit union, which is completely different than what I've been doing.
Yeah.
With the exception of that Washington Mutual call center job that was the worst job of my life. So weirdly, I'm going into like banking again, but I think it'll be different. It's in person.
Yes.
It's not going to be people calling me angry about their overdrawn bank accounts and blaming me for it. But I think it is a small company. The people that I talked with there are, it seems like they're really happy to work there. And I think that if I'm going to move from one kind of smaller, close-knit group, I would like to at least try to mimic that in my new job, just so it's an easier transition.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be interested in working for like a big corporation or a big bank if I was, to stick in that field, because I don't want to be just like another number, somewhere. So I guess I'm looking for just new opportunities to grow and learn new jobs, and within that field, there's a lot of different opportunities within that company of different jobs to do, and they seem really open to teaching people. And if you don't want to do that, then that's fine, but you can stay doing what you want to do, which I thought was kind of nice. They just want you to succeed and try new things, and I'm hoping that I find something within that company that perks my interest, and I can bring the same passion to that I have with doing what I've been doing for the last 20-something years.
Yeah.
And hopefully build some relationships with local people up there. I actually live in Bellingham. Now I bought my first condo just on my own about 3.5 years ago, and I've been commuting down here. So Camano has been my community, but I do technically live in Bellingham now, and I'm really happy up there.
Yeah.
So also the opportunity to work for a small company that is also really community centered, and does a lot of work in the community and volunteering, and just to get, I guess it's just time for me to fully move my whole self up to Bellingham and just kind of start anew in my new decade of life.
Yeah. Well, it's like you've had a very long-tailed exit to move. You're like, I'll move to Bellingham, but I'm staying on Camano. And it's just been a really long tail of that.
It basically has been. I wasn't ready to fully leave here. I mean, I have a lot of like friends and relationships, and also I just love Camano. So yeah.
That's very cool.
Don't make me cry.
I would never. Well, that's really cool. I think it's an excellent opportunity, and I do think there's a lot of crossover in like any sort of customer service. Because at least especially starting where you're starting, like it's a lot of it's customer service, so it's that same thing. And I'll say if I had to work in a call center, like I already. When my phone rings, I'm like, oh, I've got to answer that, don't I?
Yeah.
But, like, if I worked in a call center, I don't think I'd ever pick up a phone again after that.
It was awful. It was scary. I had people yelling at me, and I was just like a young girl, and it was just really intimidating. Plus, they wanted you to get, like, your phone calls had to be within, like, 2 minutes.
Yep.
So if someone's, like, reaming you, you have to, like, cut them off and say, sir, if there's anything else, if there's nothing else I can help you with, I have to let you go. And it was like, I could not do that. And so I was constantly getting called into, like, basically the principal's office because they listen to your phone calls and they record them and they make you listen to yourself back. And then and they tell you, and they're like, your phone call was 5 minutes long or 11 minutes long, and we need you to cut that back to 2. And I just felt like it was just awful customer service. Or I'd get nice people. I remember like a nice older lady was telling me about the Garth Brooks concert that she had just gone to with her daughter, and I thought, you want to have good customer service, so I was chit-chatting with her, and then I got in trouble for that. So I think I only worked there for like 3 months, and I actually didn't put a notice in at all. I think it was after being talked to again that like an hour later I went in there. I said, I'm going to go home and I'm not going to come back. So
no, and not to mention like most call centers, like they're in such terrible locations, and like the place they put you in, you just feel like
it was crammed in like stacks, like floors and floors of cubicles.
Oh, that just sounds awful.
It was awful, but that was that I learned my lesson. And that's not the job for me.
No, and that will not be your experience.
No. I mean it's in person. It is local. So I'm gonna see a lot of the same people and be dealing with the same people, and I'll make friends and build relationships and get regulars and just somewhere new. Yeah.
So. Well, and I'll say like my experience here working with like Coastal Community Bank, like we love the people that work over at Coastal, and we get to see them on a regular basis, and I think there's just a lot of similarities there. That I think
so too. Yeah.
So that's very cool. Well, we are really sad that you are moving on, and I know the community will be sad to not have you around. But we're super excited for this new opportunity.
Thank you.
So, all right. Well, I like to end every podcast with some rapid fire questions. So the first one is, what purchase of $100 or less have you enjoyed the most in the last 3 months?
Okay, so I thought about this one because I was prepped a little bit. It's going to be... when I went to Hawaii a couple months ago, like I said, I went to, I stayed in Waikiki and I was in Honolulu, and there was a restaurant called Helena's, and it started in 1946, and it's in a strip, like a tiny little strip mall, like maybe there's like 3 businesses there, and it's not a very nice strip mall, but they have the best authentic Hawaiian food, which I'm not very familiar with. I've been to like 2 luau's, in the past, but that is all I've had. Yeah. But I waited outside in the sun for like 50 minutes to get in because there was just a line. You had to take a number basically. But it was so good. It was just like they had macaroni and cheese, macaroni salad that was like the best I've ever had. And they have this dish I think it's called Lao Lao, because
Okay.
I was saying Lao Lao is wow wow. And it's like taro leaves that they've wrapped around pork, and it's just like slow cooked, or I think maybe if I'm getting this wrong, sorry, but I think that typically it would be like cooked underground or in some kind of special oven, but I don't know if that's how they were making it. But you just basically, it's like a leaves wrapped around like the pork, and it's just like almost like a pulled pork.
Yeah.
It just falls apart. It's so delicious, and they are known for their short ribs there.
Okay.
So I just had basically like 10 things off the menu. I had about 10 plates on the table surrounding me, and then I just feasted alone. It was by myself there. And then of course I had a big giant cup of like that Hawaiian punch, the pink stuff.
Yeah.
In this big styrofoam cup. It's like a very cheap restaurant there, but just really well known. Like celebrities have been there and they have their pictures on the wall. But that was less than $100, and that is what I can't stop thinking about in the last few months. Is I want some more food from there.
Yeah.
So that was worth the wait and worth the purchase. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Pretend you have a friend coming in from out of town. What would the first day look like?
On Camano?
It can be Camano or it can be up in Bellingham. Your choice.
Gosh, well, I'm going to talk about Bellingham because usually on the podcast people talk about Camano because it's the Camano Island podcast. But Bellingham's really awesome, and I think that most of the answers for the Camano are kind of in general like pretty similar.
Yeah.
So my favorite place to go in Bellingham is Boulevard Park.
Okay.
That's down kind of between like downtown Bellingham and Fairhaven. And there's a Woods Coffee that is pretty busy down there. It's just a really nice park. A lot of people go and they'll hang hammocks up in the trees there, and just it's right on the water. Okay. On the waterfront, and there's a really cool pier that follows the shoreline and runs south towards Fairhaven. Oh, and so you can I start at the parking lot at Boulevard Park, and then I walk the pier, and I don't know how far it is, maybe like a half a mile to Fairhaven. Yeah. And then I just walk to Fairhaven and get something to eat or drink there, and then walk back. And it's just really beautiful, and sunset's so nice down there. So I would definitely take them down there, probably get some coffee and take a walk. Yeah. So I definitely like that. And I just like to drive around like up the Samish Overlook, which is the cheating spot of the Oyster Dome hike. Okay. So like.
Oh yes, if you can drive up there.
Yeah. Like I mean, it's still tough to hike from that spot for me, but Oyster Dome is like my favorite local hike in the area, and so if they're up for it, I might take them on a hike there. But just going up to the Samish Overlook, that's where the hang gliders jump off of and stuff. It's super beautiful up there too. So I just kind of. Those are probably two of my favorite spots in that area. Those are great.
Yeah, we've been to both those spots, my wife and I, and the hang glider one, we were up there one time when they were hang gliding. Cool. And it was really cool to see. It's terrifying because like you hold on to a thing, but then they're like, okay, run at the cliff and jump.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
I feel like everything in your body is telling you, don't do this, don't do this.
Yeah, for sure.
So, very cool. All right. Who is an interesting or fascinating person in this community that I should interview next?
So someone that is one of my favorite customers here is Ken Johnson. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm so busy here. I don't get to sit down and talk with him a whole lot. Yeah. But I just adore him, and he's so smart, and I know that he gives like. Was he a psychologist or he did some kind of work and some kind of therapy? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he just gives good advice. And I just would like to know more about him. Yeah. And maybe now that I'm not working here, I could maybe, get together with him, or something and actually take more time to know all of the things. Cause I just get bits and pieces. I know he was in the military. I know he has done some counseling for people, and he's here like every day, and he's got a great sense of humor. And I think he's lived here for a while, and I think he has some interesting stories to tell. So I would like to know more about him. Yeah. If you can get him on here. I don't know.
Yes. All right. And lastly, what piece of advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
I would say just be braver and more confident in myself. I think I relied a lot on other people to kind of, I guess, make me happy or give me confidence. And I think that I would have taken the time to develop my own self and maybe not tried to be an adult so quick, and just take more chances and I don't know, get out of my comfort zone more.
Yeah.
I've really been trying now in my 40s to just, we talked about travel, is just I like to solo travel and take big trips and do things that scare me because it really makes me feel like empowered and brave and confident. And I think that getting that from like myself and my own like adventures, is a lot more rewarding than trying to rely on other people to make me feel a certain way or, so just to be brave and it's okay to be, on your own.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's very cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Thank you.
All right. And Islanders, I will talk to you on the next one. Well, a big thank you to Jen Sloan for joining me on the podcast, and thank you for 10 years of great espresso, and we wish you all the best in your future endeavors. So wanted to say a good farewell to Jen. And thank you for joining me on the podcast today. To find out more about this episode, you can go to camanocommons.com/podcast. That's camanocommons.com. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.